Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Zongwu. Sign into Emperor Wu's city and inherit the old heavenly master. Ying Xuan traveled to the world of comprehensive martial arts and became the 9th son of the first emperor Ying Zheng. He awakened the check.In system, and as long as he checked in everywhere, he could receive rewards. Sign in at the Grand Qin Palace and receive a reward of inheritance of Wine Sword Immortal. Upon check.In, receive a reward of inherited by the old master. Sign in at Emperor Wu's city and receive a reward, master template. Sign in at the palace and receive rewards. From then on, Ying Xuan took over the martial arts world for his own use. Conquer the world, conquer the Sui and Tang dynasties, and conquer the Ming Dynasty. Forge the Immortal Qin for eternity. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1 Young Masters Parade, Dragons and Horses Pulling Cars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Liang dynasty is located at the easternmost point of the endless continent, monopolizing the eastern wilderness. The founding emperor Zhao Li annexed the 8 kingdoms and established the Liang dynasty. The temple is so high that there are people like Tu Xuxiao and Gu Jiantang who suppress the world. The distance of the martial arts world is unparalleled, and Wang Xianji is unparalleled on horseback. He stands proudly above the martial arts world in the city of Emperor Wu, invincible to the world. Even due to Wang Xianji's influence, the power of the rivers and lakes in Liang has reached the highest level among all countries. Liang. North Liang border. A team of carriages and horses walks slowly. This carriage is extremely luxurious, especially its grandeur is even more exaggerated. The emperor travels 6 times, and this person actually uses 4 dragon horses to pull the carriage, which shows his nobility. In addition, there are thousands of fierce and malevolent cavalry on both sides of the body. This scene is so exaggerated. However, as long as you know his identity, it's not surprising. The 9th prince of the Great Qin. Wen Xian. Although he is only the 9th prince of the Great Qin, he is different from other princes. When Jing Ku assassinated Qin earlier, this 9th prince made a stunning breakthrough. Slay Jing Ku on the main hall with the technique of imperial swords. It also showcases the swordsmanship cultivation of the land immortal realm. At that time it's not just a prince, but it is the successor of the Great Qin, and also the person of the Great Qin's heritage. You should know. Although this world is a world of comprehensive martial arts, it includes the Great Qin, Great Ming, and Great Sui, as well as the magnificent Liang dynasty and the northern Mang empress who look down upon all directions. But the martial arts of this world are incredibly powerful. Martial arts 9 rank, 2nd rank Grandmaster, 1st rank Grandmaster, Diamond, Finger Xian, and Celestial Phenomenon 3 realms. Above these 3 realms, there are also land immortals and land heavenly beings. An ordinary great master can already be a vassal of a country, with a distinguished reputation. Land immortals are an almost unattainable existence, which can be said to be the foundation of a country. And Wen Xian. Although the displayed strength is that of a land god, but in reality, his true strength is the land heavenly beings. 18-year-old celestial beings. Such strength. Don't say it's because the young master Fusu is pedantic and not very competitive. Even if it's to regain momentum. The first emperor also could not choose other people as heirs. Especially when Ying Xuan informed Ying Zheng that he had received the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal. That's even more so. There is a saying of immortals in this world. For example, the legendary Zongwu emperor of the Liang dynasty. And his own son received the inheritance of Sword Immortal. How could Ying Zheng not bear to part with the position of heir apparent? As for later, Ying Xuan mentioned that he would go to the Liang dynasty as an envoy, enter into alliances and marriages, and even secretly planned to gather the Liang Jianghu for his own use. The first emperor also readily promised. Moreover, Li Si, Zhang Han, and 1,000 god-slaying soldiers were sent along. His view on this matter is only intended to allow Ying Xuan to travel for a while. It also lets the world know that the 9th prince of the Great Qin is not a playboy. In other words, there is already a desire to appoint Ying Xuan as the heir apparent. We need to start paving the way for Ying Xuan in advance. As for governing the Liang Jianhu for personal use, Emperor Shi never really thought about it that way. After all, although the Wine Sword Immortal has the name of Sword Immortal, the Huang Immortal in Liang Woody City is not simple either. Not to mention the Spring and Autumn Sword Armor, Peach Blossom Sword God, and others. Father still doesn't believe it, but is it really so difficult to suppress the Liang Jianhu? In the carriage, Ying Xuan looked at the scenery outside the window and chuckled lightly. After all, Liang is just in the snow, right? He has been traveling to this world for 10 years now. Nature also knows what kind of world this is. The boundless and endless continent is home to the 5 great imperial dynasties of the Great Qin, Liang, Beiliang, Great Sui, and Great Ming. There are also the 6 paths of the demon sect, the Cihang Jingjai, Wudang Shaolin, and the 5 sacred sword sect from previous novels. The power of the martial arts world can be described as flourishing. However, although the world is vast, he really despises the rivers and lakes within the territory of the Great Sui and Ming dynasties. With the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal, I naturally want to take a walk in the Liang Jianhu. Not only to witness the brilliance of the martial arts world, but also to prepare for the future suppression of the Great Qin and the establishment of the pre-Qin Empire. Since crossing over, I have gained the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal. It is impossible for Ying Xuan to remain calm and self-disciplined. In the past life history, Emperor Qin too died. Nowadays, it is impossible to be like that anymore, but we must strive for eternal prosperity. Even achieving the Immortal Qin Empire. Let's take a look at what can be signed out when we first arrive in Liang. Ying Xuan summons the system. Sign in. Ding. Successful check.in within Liang territory. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Purple Gold Wine Gourd. Purple Gold Wine Gourd. Made entirely of purple gold, it is non-decaying and immortal, and contains endless space. It can store true elements, spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and liquor. Zijin Wine Gourd. Ying Xuan was taken aback, not expecting to be able to sign in and produce such a good thing. He has the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal. The Imperial Sword Technique, 10,000 Swords Technique, Heavenly Sword, Sword God, Immortal Wind and Cloud Body Technique, and Drunken Immortal Moon Watching Step have naturally reached their peak level. The ultimate move of the Wine Sword Immortal, the Wine God Curse, cannot be used. It's not that the power of the winning Xuan is insufficient. But it was not finding a wine gourd that could carry true qi. Now, this purple wine gourd happens to solve this problem. Just arrived at Liang, there was such a surprise. This also fills Ying Xuan's journey ahead with anticipation. As for this check.in system, it is the golden finger of Ying Xuan who travels through this world. As long as you sign in, you can get unexpected good things. The check.in methods are divided into daily, monthly, and annual. The rewards obtained from daily signing are mostly pills and materials. The rewards obtained from monthly visas are slightly higher, including martial arts or divine weapons. The minimum reward for annual visas is at the level of land immortals. In addition to these, the system will also release random check.in tasks. As long as you complete it, you can receive unexpected rewards. The inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal is the reward obtained from random check.in tasks. Moreover, as long as Ying Xuan arrives at a new place, he can receive a complimentary check.in. Although not as good as random check.in tasks, it is still much higher than annual signing rewards. For example, when I came to the Liang dynasty this time, I received a reward of purple gold wine gourd. Ding! Random check.in task release. Host is requested to go to Huishan Daxuping to sign in. Reward. Under 1 person. No. Under 1 person. The surprise brought by the check.in system to Ying Xuan has not yet ended. Then another random check.in task was released. And it looks like it should also be a legacy. Huishan Daxuping. Regarding this, Ying Xuan naturally wants to go. But now, let's try the effect of this Zijin wine gourd first. How can the Wine Sword Immortal be without wine? Say it again. The liquor injected into the purple gold wine gourd can be aged again. Drinking it can not only refine one's true qi, but also enhance physical strength. Thinking of this, Ying Xuan handed the wine gourd out the window. Zhang Han, go get me some wine. Outside the car window, Zhang Han nodded respectfully and said, "No." Li Si beside him didn't say anything. The 9th prince took out these strange things not once or twice. He has long been accustomed to it. Moreover, this trip was just accompanying the 9th prince on a journey. He has no control over anything. Accelerate. Zhang Han let out a low shout, and immediately all the killing army behind him agreed. Suddenly, the originally slow and leisurely carriages and horses seemed to be racing forward at lightning speed. Just as we were about to reach the tavern, a crisp sound sounded. Waiter, serve the wine. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 2. Waiter drinking, encountering spring and autumn sword armor on the road. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Waiter, serve wine. In front of the tavern, Su Fengnian spoke loudly. Traveling 6,000 miles, plus a few years of practicing swordsmanship. While calming his mind, he also imbued himself with the grandeur of a martial artist. This trip is a second entry into the martial arts world. Accompanied by the first bad horse Lao Huang, it was as miserable as a beggar. This time, Su Fengnian went out of the martial arts world as a crown prince. Apart from the group of experts arranged by Su Xiao, there were also 100 white horse followers from the Fengzi camp around him. But as soon as the words were finished, I didn't wait for the waiter to agree. The ground started to vibrate slightly. Even the horses under Su Fengnian were somewhat frightened. This made him unable to help but look towards the distance. Not just him. Jiang Yanai, Li Chungang, Lv Qiantang, Ningame, and others beside him all raised their eyebrows to look. Only see. Thunderstorms erupted in the distance, and the air currents surged. Endless smoke and dust rose up, then instantly shattered under the collision of the brave cavalry. Thousands of brave cavalry rushed forward, but it seemed like 10,000 horses galloping, causing the earth to tremble violently. A Qin flag with a black background and red stripes flutters in the wind, making a sound of hunting. Looking from afar, I can only see flags hunting and soldiers like a forest. Even the world suddenly became dim, with an iron-blooded and murderous aura soaring into the sky. The momentum has reached its climax. Qin character flag. Is it a brave cavalry of the great Qin Empire? Such a heavy killing intent is the killing god army under the command of Qin Wuan. The god-slaying army. Surprisingly, it's the god-slaying army. Everyone behind Su Fengnian was in an uproar. There are countless brave cavalry in the world, but only 4 of them deeply penetrate people's hearts. Beimang Ruan Iron Cavalry, Liang Big Snow Dragon Cavalry, Duqin Golden Fire Cavalry, Bai Qi Killing God Army. Among them, the great Qin Empire monopolizes the second place. And this god-slaying army is a brave cavalry of the same level as the Snow Dragon Cavalry. It's a bit too luxurious to lead with such a brave cavalry. Even Su Fengnian is still amazed at this moment. Are people from the great Qin Empire always so ostentatious when traveling? He looked at Ningame, one of the experts who brought him, and said, "Why don't you go back and find Su Xiao and ride hundreds of snow dragon cavalry?" Ningame didn't answer. How could the snow dragon cavalry be brought out? The Feng character camp with 100 white horses is already at its limit. After all, this time I have traveled the entire Jianghu, not just in the northern Liang realm. If there are too many people to bring, I'm afraid the general of Wuyang should be causing trouble. Seeing Ningame not speaking, Su Fengnian also waved his hand, finding himself uninteresting. For dragon horses pulling the carriage, is it possible that the person escorting them is the 9th prince of the Great Qin Empire? Jiang and I spoke softly, but she caught Su Fengnian's gaze away. The 9th prince of the Great Qin Empire wins Xian. Su Fengnian was momentarily taken aback and then chuckled lightly. He is like a thunderbolt piercing his ears when it comes to winning Xian, the 9th prince of the Great Qin dynasty. When it comes to being a playboy or a spendthrift, it's not even comparable to 10 years of Su Feng. There are 4 great playboys in the world. The 9th prince of the Great Qin dynasty won Xian, but he was the one who forced Su Fengnian out of the top spot. Speaking of which, only that brother probably dared to do so in Liang. Su Feng spoke with a young smile. He has never seen Ying Xuan, but since he is also a playboy. In Su Fengnian's eyes, there is a sense of familiarity. Moreover, now the Great Qin has completely destroyed all 6 states in the western desert, and its national strength is incredibly strong. If we can connect with Daqin online, perhaps we can solve the crisis in Beiliang. I heard that there was a sword immortal in the Great Qin Empire, and it is said to be the 9 princes. Jiang and I spoke softly, but she didn't have a good expression. Due to Su Fengnian's reasons, she doesn't have a good impression of these playboys. Sword Immortal. Upon hearing these words, Li Chungang also raised his head. He is the top 13 sword armor in the spring and autumn period of the Liang Jianghu, and he was once the number 1 in the world. Although he doesn't care about any illusions now. But when it comes to Sword Immortal, he also has some interest. What kind of swordsmanship can be called immortal? Swords need to be so easy to practice. Why do I practice swords? Su Fengnian pursed his lips and clearly didn't believe it. Just as a few people were speaking. The brave cavalry rushing towards this place began to slow down. Soon. He stopped 100 meters away from the tavern. Zhang Han and Li Si respectfully walked to the carriage and opened the car door. Originally, Zhang Han was supposed to come over to fetch wine. But Ying Xuan suddenly said that there was his own old friend ahead. But he sensed the presence of Li Chungang and others. They may not know themselves, but for Ying Xuan, they are indeed old friends. The car door slowly opens. Ying Xuan also looked towards the direction of the tavern. Li Chungang, Su Fengnian, Jiang and I, Lv Qiantang when he saw Lao Huang, Ying Xuan was slightly taken aback. If we follow the plot of Shuizhong, at this point in time, Lao Huang should have already died in battle in the city of Emperor Wu. How could it possibly appear here? Moreover, the sentence, "I offer my life as a tribute and respectfully invite the Crown Prince to enter the martial arts world," is still vivid in my memory. Is it possible that some things have deviated slightly because this world is a world of comprehensive martial arts? Ying Xuan didn't think much about this matter. Instead, his gaze fell on Li Chungang. This former sword armor has now fallen to the realm of Ji Xian and has become unkempt. Just as Ying Xuan was looking at Li Chungang. Li Chungang suddenly felt a sensation in his heart, but when he lifted his head, it happened to intersect with Ying Xuan's gaze. Moment Li Chungang felt as if he was instantly submerged by a surging sea. That sea is not water, but a series of sword meanings. Strong, cold, and sharp. With a majestic aura that sweeps away the evil spirits and demons, yet it seems like it doesn't consume human fireworks. It's not the swordsmanship of this world. This kind of sword intent is stronger than one's own during the prosperous period. Sword Immortal. Is it true that the 9th prince of the Great Qin Empire is the Sword Immortal? He felt like a raging storm surging up in his heart. How could this Qin ninth prince be a sword immortal, as he is not as young as his weak crown? Even if Su Fengnian accepted Wang Chongluo's dawanting, it is now only worthy of reaching second grade. How did the ninth prince of the Great Qin manage it? Just a moment. Li Chungang had already developed a slight cold sweat on his body. Old Huang, Lv Tang, Wei Shuyang and others beside him were unaware of these. They looked at Li Chungang with some confusion. At this moment, Li Chungang couldn't help but burst out with a sword intent. The whole person seems to be immersed in some kind of enlightenment. Where do they know? Li Chungang's mind had already fallen into the gaze of Ying Xuan. This surging sword intent. It also made Zhang Han, Li Si, and the god-slaying army all alert. At this moment, Li Chungang regained his senses. But he lowered his head and withdrew the burst of sword intent. Restored the image of that sleazy old man without saying a word. Su Fengnian didn't notice anything about what happened between the lightning and the fire. On the contrary, he looked at Ying Xuan and said, "I dare to ask my brother, but is it the ninth prince of the Great Qin Empire?" Ying Xuan didn't answer, but instead said to Zhang Han, "Go and try your sword." "No." Zhang Han nodded and walked to the front of the team. Ying Xuan's voice was not loud, but all the people present were powerful in their ears. Su Fengnian laughed when he heard that he was going to try his sword. The Great Qin Empire did not have rivers and lakes, but it had endless swordsmen. Perhaps this sword test is also a way for both parties to enhance their relationship. Thinking of this, Su Fengnian looked at Lao Huang and said, "Lao Huang." Old Huang reluctantly took the first 2 steps. Bang! The sword box in his hand fell to the ground. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 3. Han's Sword Trial, Unparalleled and Fierce. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let Zhang Han try his sword. This is Ying Xuan wanting to see how the Great Qin swordsman compares to the Liang swordsman. The Great Qin swordsmen were often influenced by various schools of thought. The swordsmen of the Liang River and the Jianghu have their own factions, each with their own unique strengths. If we could take this opportunity to perceive the differences. Perhaps in the future, there will also be swordsmen like Li Chungang and Deng Tea in the Great Qin Dynasty. Zhang Han took the first 2 steps and walked to the open space ahead. Between his hands, 2 sharp swords, one long and one short, have already been unsheathed. The long sword is named Longxiang and is a famous sword in the sword spectrum. With 2 swords in hand, Zhang Han's momentum greatly changed. Not only does it have an unparalleled sharpness, but it also has a fierce aura that comes from the mountains and seas of corpses. He is already a soldier, so naturally he carries the aura of a soldier. The one who points to the Xian sword. Old Huang squinted his eyes and his face became serious. 1 grade, 3 realms. The Diamond Realm is characterized by an incredibly strong and powerful body, often practiced in various sects, such as Buddhism. Ji Xian is to practice the spirit, but to predict and anticipate the enemy first. It is also able to comprehend some mysterious finger techniques. No one dares to claim victory over anyone who points to the mystical realm, because they have come up with various mysterious techniques. As for the celestial realm, it is the interaction between heaven and humanity, resonating with heaven and earth, and can be borrowed from heaven and earth. For example, the magnanimity and righteousness of Confucianism, the casualness of legalism, and the sharp tongues and swords of famous scholars. These are mostly experts in the celestial realm. And Zhang Han not only displayed his cultivation in the Xianjing realm, but also attracted attention for his fierce temperament. Li Chungang, Lv Tang, Ming, Wei Shuyang, and others all looked towards Zhang Han. It seems that Lao Huang has a rival this time, Lv Tang said. That fierce soldier is clearly a member of the military family. Many soldiers first cultivate the diamond realm and have a strong physique. Lao Huang pointed straight into his fingertips. His physique was not comparable to that of Zhang Han. Lv Qian Tang, how can you gain others' ambition and destroy your own authority? Su Fengnian pursed his lips and didn't perceive much. But I also know that Zhang Han will be a formidable opponent. However, he has great confidence in Lao Huang. The white-haired old Kuei practicing swordsmanship at the bottom of the lake is not even a match for old Huang. And that unique swordsmanship is also famous throughout the world. The Great Qin sword has its own uniqueness. Only the method of refining the body with evil energy can be achieved by few people from Liang. Li Chungang spoke with an undisguised praise in his tone. Even now, Zhang Han has not fully unleashed his momentum. He could also see that Zhang Han was unusual. The evil energy reaches from yin to turbidity, and ordinary people dare not refine their bodies with it. What are you talking about, old man, using evil energy to refine your body? Su Fengnian was a bit confused. Sha Qi is a unique possession of the military. Only when a large number of soldiers gather can a military force be formed. To refine one's body with it, one must first master it. At least it is necessary to be in the celestial realm and be able to connect with the power of heaven and earth. And the swordsman in front of him only points to Xian. How could he forge his body with evil energy? This may be a unique tactic of the soldiers of the Great Qin Empire. Li Chungang did not turn back. The military strategist's evil energy is extremely fierce. Even if it is used by ordinary people, even if it is contaminated, there will be a risk of life. And anyone who kills and forges their body can increase their stamina several times, making the diamond realm comparable to the great Vajra of Buddhism. Li Chungang doesn't know much about Sha Qi forging. But during his 20 years in the Tingqiao Pavilion, he also read some books. This Sha Qi forging technique is unique to soldiers. Any success not only leads to a surge in physical strength, but also to the ability to absorb the enemy's energy from the battlefield and continuously strengthen oneself. This also creates an invincible presence on the battlefield for anyone who is a soldier. However, there are also its drawbacks. That is the method of forging one's body with weapons and demons that can be used everywhere. Whether referring to Xian or Tianxiang, they will fall to the diamond realm. To break through, one can only take the path of a warrior. That's going straight from the first level diamond realm to the land immortals. But the difficulty of it can be seen from the high-end combat capabilities of soldiers from various countries today. There are not many land immortals at all. Even Gu Jiantang, the top general of Liang, who has always been hostile to Su Shao. It's just a realm of celestial phenomena. In the northern Liang prince's mansion. Su Yanbing, the North Liang nuclear warhead. I have been stuck in the diamond realm for over a decade now and have no chance to break through. That is to say, Chen Jibao still has some hope in using the Confucian Haran Qi to dispel the demonic forces. Zhang Han in front of Ku. Unexpectedly, with the use of military skills, one can still penetrate the fingertip. This also aroused some interest in Li Chungang. Can I use it then? Su Fengnian heard that his physique could skyrocket several times, and he was also excited to speak up. You don't want to become a land immortal anymore. Li Chungang gave him a blank glance. Su Fengnian also thought of something and obediently shut up. Jiang Ni's deflated appearance provoked a burst of ridicule. Even if there is a malevolent energy-forging body, this person is not a match for Lao Huang. Wei Shuyang squinted his eyes and opened his mouth. He is the founder of the Nine Do Rice Taoist, although his strength is only second grade. But after 3 years of guarding the Chao Pavilion, my eyesight goes without saying. Zhang Han has a strong physique, a sharp breath, and the toughness of a soldier. But it lacks some flexibility. Only close combat can unleash maximum combat power. And Lao Huang has been in the dark for many years, and his sword spirit has been honed and rounded, not to mention. I have also delved deeply into one of the techniques. You can tell from his self-created sword technique. Indeed, that's true. Li Chungang also nodded. Although if you were close, most of Lao Huang would be defeated. But Lao Huang didn't just stand still and let the other party fight. As long as the gang sha on its body can be broken, it is already in the upper hand. Upon hearing this, Su Fengnian nodded in satisfaction. The shop assistant took a chair and sat down, looking over enthusiastically. At the moment when Su Fengnian looked over 100 meters around Zhang Han and Lao Huang, the temperature suddenly drops. Zhang Han's body began to gather a strong and unparalleled military aura. His aura also began to become extremely fierce. Just a few breaths, it's like bathing in blood like a Shura. Just looking at it makes one's heart tremble. Such majesty also surprised everyone. Before they could even speak, they saw that the sword box in front of old Huang began to tremble slightly. Surprisingly, it was influenced by this fierce momentum. Good momentum. Old Huang gave a deep thumbs up. He reached out and pressed his hand onto the sword box to stabilize it. The gaze towards Zhang Han was already full of seriousness. The ferocity of the opponent's aura is definitely not just about simply mobilizing evil energy. But it was killed step by step from the mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Even gave him a feeling of facing Su Yanbing. This kind of person is the most difficult to deal with. Ka Lao Huang will not give the other party another chance to boost their momentum. If we let the other party continue to improve. The loser is oneself, the disgracer is the crown prince. He slapped the sword box. Suddenly, 5 famous swords shone with cold light, shining brightly. At the moment this sword appeared, where did old Huang still have any trace of a groom's temperament? Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 4. Horse husband old Huang, 6,000 miles of poor horse yellow wine. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ka the sword box was opened, and Lao Huang's aura also changed greatly. He exudes a strong sword intent all over his body. These swords have their own unique meanings, but they also differ. Old Huang named the sword in his nurturing box with the intention of using the sword, in order to repay the kindness of the 3 swords that year. Nowadays, it has its own faction, but with the help of Xian, it is possible to slay celestial phenomena experts. In the past, he fought against the Su Yan soldiers with all his 8 swords before suppressing them. Today, it cannot be like this. This is not just about winning or losing. And the face of His Highness the Crown Prince. Buzzing the several swords merged in one place and rose into the sky. And Lao Huang's breath also began to surge wildly. In an instant, it has already surpassed the fingertips and headed straight for the celestial phenomena. I didn't see any movement from him either. But the 5 famous swords in the sword box floated up in the air. With the surge of old Huang's sword intent, it kept galloping. Even more gusts of wind rise, howling like thunder. You old Huang, you're hiding this trick. In this scene, Su Fengnian sat straight from the chair. When suppressing the old Kuei in the lake, Su Fengnian specially asked old Huang to demonstrate his swordsmanship. I have never seen such a grand momentum before. Just starting, it has already caused the world to turn pale. A sense of grandeur continued to rise in Lao Huang's body. It may seem like a famous sword floating in the air, but in reality, it blocked all the escape routes for Zhang Han. He can't dodge at all, he can only choose to hard connect. Old Huang, is this one move to determine the winner? Not bad, the first 8 swords are just ordinary top-notch swordsmanship, but this sword is truly a master's style. Li Chungang spoke up and commented. But when he started, he could already see a lot. This sword was inspired by old Huang and the Crown Prince's journey of 6,000 miles. The first 8 swords. Old Huang is dedicated to swordsmanship, but can only enter the swordsmanship. But this ninth sword, Old Huang Cheng, is already able to lead the way. A grand family demeanor. Su Fengnian was slightly stunned. Li Chungang, as the former number one in the world, has a terrifying vision. Last time I praised like this, it was still towards Jiang and I. It is still the first time to praise Lao Huang for his family style. If we had used this move against Su Yan's soldier Lao Huang in the battle, I'm afraid Su Yan's soldier would have been seriously injured. LV Qiantang's eyes were surprised and couldn't help but speak. Is this sword really so terrifying? Ningyame whispered. Su Yanbing knows. A half-step martial saint who claims to be invincible below the land and exchange one for another above the land. Will you also get hurt in the face of Lao Huang's sword? His realm is low, but from the 6th grade, there is no indication of his true abilities. Indeed, this sword is afraid to break through Su Yanbing's diamond body. Li Chungang spoke lightly. This sword is indeed powerful, if he were to deal with it. I'm afraid I'll use that famous stunt to become a green snake. At least it's a sparring, but if it hurts the other person, it's probably not good either. Wei Shuyang frowned slightly. Li Chungang waved his hand and said, don't worry, if you really reach that point, I will naturally stop you. During speech. Lao Huang's momentum has already reached its peak. He pinched the sword technique in his hand, and his clothes and robes made a hunting sound. Then it's a step forward. Boom. The ground trembled, and countless pieces of gravel flew in all directions. Amidst the howling waves, the true qi within the old corpus luteum surged like a surging river, all of which flowed into the floating 5 long swords. The combination of sword intent and true qi unleashes an unparalleled sword shard. The next moment, the 5 swords rose out. Subsequently, just like lightning and flint, heading straight towards Zhang Han. The sword light instantly shattered the endless airflow and pulled out a long training path. Until the training dissipated, there was a constant burst of ghostly cries and wolf howls in the air. Under this sword light training, Zhang Han's body seemed to be submerged in an instant. Under the traction of the air engine, he had no chance to avoid it at all. Only hard resistance can be selected. More like a tide of warning signs constantly surging in his heart. Even the air within 100 meters of this area became heavy and squeezed from all directions. It's like the next moment, I'll be chopped into a pile of flesh with this sword. This sword is so terrifying, could Zhang Han resist it? Lise frowned. This time, the envoy to Liang also had some intention of promoting the power of the Great Qin Dynasty. If Zhang Han is defeated, it is inevitable that his face will be somewhat unsightly. Ying Xuan waved his hand and chuckled lightly. He looked at the sword light that was about to reach Zhang Han and said, if it had been in the past, it would have been unstoppable. But now that Zhang Han has reached the realm of Zhi Xian, the use of evil energy is not just about affecting the body. Not just affecting the body. Is it difficult to control the evil energy against the enemy? Li Si was slightly taken aback. But I saw the evil energy gathered on Zhang Han's body suddenly surge into the sky. The intense and fierce aura began to wrap around the sword edge. And even more powerful blood is surging in all directions. Dong! Like the sound of war drums, Zhang Han's momentum completely erupted. He did not retreat but advanced, facing the sharpness of Lao Huang's sword and charging forward. This movement was like a turning dragon, with a terrifying aura of thousands of soldiers and horses rushing towards it. The weapon's aura entered the body, and Zhang Han had completely entered a state of combat. Under that black outfit, his body swelled up like a balloon. Exposed hands, legs, and above the neck. Muscles and tendons rise up in anger like dragons. In an instant, it had already crossed a distance of tens of zhang, and the raging airflow was howling. He suddenly handed out a 3-foot green blade in his hand. The fierce evil energy began to diffuse, and all the sword energy colliding with it began to devour. This is the terrifying aspect of evil energy. It is formed by the convergence of qi from yin to turbidity, which has a suppressive effect on all true qi. On the battlefield, there are also methods to block the land immortals from taking off by hooking up evil energy. The terror of its killing power and the strength of its suppression are simply indestructible. Even if Lao Huang's sword is in a crushing posture. But if we cannot break through this evil energy, we will only be defeated. Boom! The air roared and smoke swept through. Countless broken stones were shaken away, and then shot towards the surroundings under the blowing of the waves. The one who points to the Xian sword. In this world, he is already a master capable of founding a sect. Not to mention now that Lao Huang is using his ultimate technique to suppress the bottom of the box, Zhang Han is even more adept at mobilizing his troops. Once collided, it was like a Category 12 hurricane rising up, making it hard for anyone to open their eyes. Surprisingly so terrifying. Su Fengnian widened his eyes and was almost blown down from the chair by the waves of air. Behind him, everyone was also shocked and their figures were stable. The great Qin sword master really has some tricks, LV Qiantang said in a deep voice. The terror of Zhang Han's sword can be considered invincible at the same level. Even experts in the realm of celestial phenomena may not be their opponents. Everyone looked towards the rising smoke and dust. Only see. Zhang Han's body followed the sword, shifting like a mountain, showcasing his physique vividly in the diamond realm. Old Huang fought and retreated, but his sword spirit became increasingly powerful. Not good. Li Chungang let out a sudden cry of surprise and immediately swept towards the smoke and dust. He just finished speaking. I saw old Huang kicking back 3 steps. But in front of Zhang Han, there was a sword light coming from a strange angle. With his current methods, he cannot resist it at all. Zheng, but at this critical moment. A sword roar suddenly echoed through the sky and earth. Subsequently, it is an endless and surging sword like surging blue waves. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 5. Today we know that the name of Sword Immortal is not a false statement. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Old Huang's figure retreated. The arms drooped and trembled uncontrollably. Under the suppression of evil energy, he had already lost control of this sword. I can't stop it now. 5 swords were blocked by Zhang Heng for 4 times. But there was a path that broke through all the blockades and attacked his face from a cunning and eerie angle. 6,000 miles of inferior horse yellow wine, capable of killing celestial phenomena with fingertips. This sword came head-on, and Zhang Han felt like he was falling into an ice cave, but he couldn't make an effective resistance at all. Pop. His protective spirit, Gang Sha, did not hold on for a moment under the sword light, but shattered with a loud bang. The sharpness of the sword had already pierced his forehead. This sword is too fast. Even if he wants to mobilize his strength and gather it on his forehead now, there's not enough time. At this critical moment, the sound of a sword echoed through the heavens and earth. The vast sword intent suddenly permeated the surroundings for hundreds of miles. In an instant, both heaven and earth became dark. It seems like everything is frozen at this moment. At the moment this sword intent appeared, everyone's hearts and minds were greatly shaken. Even Li Chungang, who wanted to block the sword rushing towards Zhang Han's face gate. At this moment, he also stopped and his face was filled with a look of shock. Only see. A slender and fair palm extended forward from Zhang Han's shoulder. A light exploration with 2 fingers. Lock the blade with a terrifying aura firmly. Moment the restless power of heaven and earth in the blade of the sword completely fell silent, and the sword energy on it dissipated without a trace. This scene shocked everyone to the extreme. Such a sword is already a deadly sword. Even Li Chungang, who flew over, had the possibility of missing out. But it was completely blocked by this hand. Who is this person? Everyone followed the palm of their hand and saw a face that was too young to be true. The ninth prince of the Great Qin, Wen Xian. How could it be him? Li Chungang was shocked beyond measure. He never imagined that this young master of the Great Qin it's really that peerless sword immortal. When the carriage and horse arrived just now, he felt the surging sword intent. Just thinking that there are high-level officials following around the ninth prince of the Great Qin. But I never expected that the expert would be the ninth prince Ying Xuan. How could this be possible? And such a close distance also made him perceive the true realm of Ying Xuan. Land, heaven, and man will grow forever. After reaching the realm of land immortals, one can ascend to the sky and step over the heavenly gate. If one passes through the heavenly gate without entering, and stays in the lower realm, then they are heavenly people. It is difficult for a flawless person to achieve perfection, and it takes a long time to refine oneself. And flawless celestial beings are known as the great habitat of celestial beings. It combines the immaculate body of the great diamond realm, the flawless mind of the great immortal finger mysterious realm, and the terrifying intuition of observing celestial phenomena at the Confucian saint level to predict the future. It can be said that it is truly invincible on earth. Even in the sky, it's hard to find opponents. This ninth prince of the Great Qin Empire has not yet reached the weak crown. How could one possibly possess such terrifying strength? Even if it is the reincarnation of celestial beings, it is absolutely impossible to exaggerate like this. Old Huang widened his eyes and slumped to the ground. Just now, the evil energy invaded and he completely lost control of this sword. Even in that moment, he had a plan to apologize with death in his heart. After all, the two countries will not cut off each other in battle. If the other party is currently on an envoy to Liang and is accidentally killed by themselves, I'm afraid it will trigger a war between Liang and Daqin. I never expected that the other party would have such a talented person around. With just a casual second finger, he grabbed his strongest sword. What kind of realm is this ninth prince of the Great Qin? Far away. Su Fengnian stood up from the chair in shock, his eyes complex, and his face full of disbelief. His heart was like a raging storm, constantly surging. How? Maybe. He only feels dry mouth and tongue. The strength demonstrated by the ninth prince of the Great Qin. Even more terrifying than anyone I've ever seen. And how old is he now? I'm afraid I'm almost 10 years younger than myself. This can happen before the onset of a weak coronavirus. How could there be such a demon in this world? Even the ox rider from Wudong Mountain, who claims to be the one who cultivates the heavenly way, Hong Shixiang. It's not that scary, is it? Su Fengnian was panting heavily, and suddenly felt the pressure on his shoulders getting heavier and heavier. He is very clear about Su Zhao's meaning. Either focus on retirement and be a lifelong playboy. Either make a big splash and take over Beiliang. Obtained the crown of Wudong King Chonglu Dawangting, the southern palace servant gifted a sword, and Li Yishan taught strategy. This time when I entered the martial arts world again, I even arranged to teach myself the once best spring and autumn sword armor in the world. Such an opportunity, I'm afraid it's something that even the emperor of that dynasty has never had before. You can do it yourself. Compared to Ying Xuan, the 9 young masters of the Great Qin, they appear to be inferior in appearance. Are the people of Daqin so abnormal? Just emerged from the martial arts world. Su Fengnian is still complacent and thinks of the 4 major dandies in the world. I'm afraid only my own prodigal son will turn around and the future will be smooth. But today, Ying Xuan told him with absolute strength. The number 1 playboy in the world is not a playboy, but a peerless sword immortal. This made him unable to accept it for a moment. On his side, LV Qiantang, Ningame, Wei Shuyang and others have completely numbed. They seem to be in a dream, only now have they suddenly awakened. The saying of the Great Qin Sword Immortal is not an exaggeration at all. The grandeur of that sword intent is secondary. Among them, carefree, unrestrained, and unrestrained it is even more heart-wrenching. Even the spring and autumn sword armor Li Chungang, who wore a green shirt back then, was just that they all looked at Li Chungang in front of Ying Xuan. Indeed, I am worthy of the sword immortal. Li Chungang looked at Ying Xuan, his eyes full of admiration. His statement was entirely inspired by his heart. He didn't even see clearly the movements of winning Xuan just now. The method of dissipating sword energy is extremely domineering. It was a crushing level of true qi that shook and dispersed it forcefully. You should know. Any second grade can transform qi and solidify vitality. The first level realm allows for the separation of vigorous qi from the body, with unparalleled destructive power. Ying Xuan easily resolved it. He represents not only the realm of immortality, but also the strength that matches it. This made Li Chunggang's heart extremely hot. What if such an amazing person makes him the number one in the world? The knot in his heart has been completely untied. Li Chungang is unwilling to be the number one in the world. It's not just that I don't like fame. But he wants someone in this world who can surpass his sword. Now the sword energy and cultivation revealed by Ying Xuan have been recognized by this spring and autumn sword armor from the Liang Jianghu. The sword god praised it falsely. Ying Xuan chuckled lightly. With a flick of the finger. The long sword he held with his two fingers pierced through the air and returned to the sword box in front of old Huang with the sound of the sword's roar. The sound of the sword also brought the shocked crowd back to their senses. Thank you very much, young master. Zhang Han retreated to the side and spoke respectfully. At this moment, he was covered in cold sweat like a waterfall, with lingering palpitations in his heart. Just now, he walked through the gates of hell. Even with one's own diamond realm physique, resisting this sword with force is at least a serious injury. If it weren't for Ying Xuan's move, you just step back first, Ying Xuan said calmly. Zhang Han nodded respectfully and retreated to the side of the carriage. You're just a land god, young master. There was a hint of shock in Lisa's voice. Lao Huang's sword just now is much stronger than Jing Ke's. But still so casually caught by the ninth young master's second finger. I'm afraid that the current young master has reached a height that we cannot reach. Zhang Han was extremely respectful, completely devoid of any contempt for Ying Xuan. Just between the conversation between the two. Buzzing, another sword shot up into the sky. This sword's meaning is no different from that of Ying Xuan's sword. But there is less carefree and unrestrained, and more recklessness and boldness. But Li Chungang, under the washing of Ying Xuan's sword intent, involuntarily burst out with sword intent. In this moment, it seems that Li Chunggang's low and short body has become a bit taller. At this moment, he is not any sleazy old man. But rather that one dressed in a green shirt, indulging in reckless behavior. With a long chant in front of millions of swordsmen, become the unparalleled sword god in the hearts of swordsmen in the world who find it difficult to cross mountains. Heaven does not give birth to Li Chungang, and swordsmanship will last as long as night for eternity. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 6. With a sword, return to the land Immortals. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Li Chungang couldn't help but burst out with a sword intent. In an instant, the sky and earth were all dark. But it has a certain aura of sword armor from the past. Its sword meaning echoes the carefree sword meaning of Ying Xuan. It's like turning this place into a world full of swords. Under such sword-like training, even those who do not practice swordsmanship can benefit greatly. After all, Although Li Chuangong's realm has fallen, his sword intent is still at the level of a land immortal. Not to mention Ying Xuan, he is a powerful person in the realm of great immortality. Even if it takes a long time. The remaining sword intent here will definitely make the people of the martial arts rush to compete. To gain insight into swordsmanship here. Just Li Chungang looked at Ying Xuan with a complex expression. For a long time. He just spoke up and said, "Thank you very much. I have reached the realm of Ying Xuan. It's not difficult to take Lao Huang's sword." But he unleashed his sword intent recklessly, enveloping 100 miles around. Moreover, with his own carefree sword spirit, he inspired Li Chuangong's heroic sword spirit. Its purpose is self-evident. You don't need to be polite. The Li Yang Jianghu has no sword armor, but it's quite boring. Ying Xuan smiled lightly and spoke up. Just now, Zhang Han and Lao Huang tested their swords. He already understood the differences between Daqin Kendo and Liang Kendo. Now, with a burst of sword intent, I want to use it as a pretext to give Li Chungang a chance. There is no point in saying this. It's just a fantasy to win. In the snowy world, Li Chungang saw Su Fengnian holding an umbrella and reminiscing about his old friend. Breaking through the heart knot, with a sword strike, returned to the land immortal. I don't know that today I used the meaning of the carefree sword as a guide. Can you see the famous scene where the sword screen covers the sky? Ying Xuan is very interested in this. Li Chuangong's lips slightly parted, but he didn't speak. He knew that the sword armor mentioned by Ying Xuan was not the sleazy old man he is now. But it was Li Chungang, who was once reckless and knew he was invincible in his green shirt. Okay. He nodded heavily and began to exert his sword intent with all his might. Willing to paint a prison for you for 20 years. Invincible in the world, how about being oneself? Now, thinking about it, isn't it just not regretting? In the morning and evening, flowers and birds sing, stepping over the southern mountains to gaze at the northern Sichuan. You have no regrets, and I have no regrets either. Jingjing Li Chuangong's body began to hear the sound of swords chirping incessantly. And his sword intent also became incredibly powerful. The terrifying aura began to permeate Li Chungang, with sword marks appearing around him. Void-leaving marks, condensed but not dispersed. However, the sword intent of Ying Xuan was like a rock, standing still even when the waves hit the shore. Just a clash of sword intent. It has already changed the color of the world. A strong wind suddenly rises, and clouds diffuse and rise. There were also roars, like thunderbolts exploding into the sky. In this moment, the air seemed to be replaced by a strong sword intent. Then, a dazzling light rushed straight into the sky. However, just a clash of sword intent has created such a terrifying reputation. This also left everyone stunned. It seems that the 9th prince of the Great Qin is at least on par with the senior swordsman, Lv Qiantang said in a deep voice. Except for Li Chungang, this place. No one can feel the true realm of Ying Xuan anymore. They can only rely on speculation. On par. Su Fengnian was taken aback. This terrible old man is a spring and autumn sword armor, once the best in the world. How could this young master of Qin be on par with him with his sword spirit? He was just shocked by Ying Xuan's strength just now. But I didn't expect that Ying Xuan's sword intent would be so terrifying. He once heard Li Chungang say it. The difference between swordsmanship and strength is a personal understanding of swordsmanship. It often takes a long period of accumulation to achieve small success. For example, Lao Huang spent 30 years forging iron, and later in the Sui Dynasty, Shegu taught 3 swords. After decades of ups and downs, I accompanied him on a journey of 6,000 miles. This is where the inferior horse yellow wine travels 6,000 miles, came into existence. Can win Xian at such an age? How could it be on par with Li Chungang in terms of sword intent? Can it be that this young master of Qin has been comprehending swordsmanship since his birth? Jiang Yan'ai interjected, her face filled with astonishment. She is an innate sword embryo, and even reading and writing can enhance her sword spirit. Among these people today, she has the deepest feelings. Nonsense. You're still a congenital sword embryo, why are you still a princess of peace? Su Fengnian pouted and muttered, causing Jiang Yan'ai to snort coldly. She simply ignored Su Fengnian and turned to realize the raging sword intent. But at this feeling, Jiang Yan'ai was immediately stunned. If we compare the sword intent of Ying Xuan to Wang Yang Dehai, the sword intent of Li Chungang now is like a lonely boat drifting in the sea. Following the flow, it seems that it will be destroyed at any time. But in reality, it gradually became more domineering. This change was not noticed by Jiang Yan'ai alone. Lao Huang also felt it in his heart. He looked at Li Chungang with tightly closed eyes and a happy expression on his face. That spring and autumn sword armor is coming back. Boom. The words have just finished. Li Chunggang's breath suddenly began to rise. Ji Xian. Astronomy. Land Immortals. Li Chungang suddenly opened his eyes. Sword. A deep drink was the knot in his heart that had been painstakingly imprisoned for the past 20 years. Now everyone is washing away in this sword strike. The sound fell. A strange oscillation began to spread towards the surroundings. Anyone affected by it starts to tremble with the sword on their waist. Chang. A long sword detached from its sheath and floated in the air. Subsequently, there was the second handle, the third handle behind Ying Xuan. The face of the 1,000 god-slaying army was shocked. Their long swords flew backwards from their waists, soaring straight into the sky. Even Zhang Han and Li Si were unable to control their long swords. Even with all our strength, we cannot suppress it. It seems like. In this moment. Their long swords around their waist have all given birth to wisdom, and they want to soar to the sky and go on a pilgrimage. There is even a feeling. My sword says, I want to go worship the sword god. It truly deserves to be the number one in the world in the Liang Jianghu. Zhang Han's eyes were shocked, but he released his hand that was pressing on the hilt of the sword. For swordsmen, wearing a sword is their own life. But now as he watched Long Xiang fly out, he could feel the joy of the sword coming from him. Moreover, with Ying Xuan here, what can we do without the sword? Oh my goodness! This terrible old man. Surprisingly. It took Su Fengnian a long time to come up with a reason. He swallowed heavily and looked at the scene in front of him with a shocked expression. What is spring and autumn sword armor? This is the spring and autumn sword armor. With the sound of a sword, it commands the sword of the world. Spring and autumn sword armor. Old Huang shouted recklessly, and he displayed his sword box. 5 of the famous swords soared into the sky in an instant. Immediately after, there was an incessant sound of swords. The next moment, a large sword curtain rose up from the sky, sweeping across the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was like a raging wave crashing on the shore, blocking the sky and sun. This is the best spring and autumn sword armor in the world of Liang Jianghu. A sword strikes, commanding all swords in the world. This is the true charm of spring and autumn sword armor. A good sword, but not enough. Ying Xuan also chuckled lightly. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 7. Sword shines over the heaven and earth, only I, the Wine Sword Immortal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But it's not enough. Ying Xuan spoke with a faint smile. Sword curtains cover the sky. Like a dragon swimming into the sea, sweeping across the sky and earth. This scene can be described as full of momentum. But in Ying Xuan's opinion, it's still not enough. The sword's light blocking the sky and sun is certainly grand, but its power is greatly reduced. If this move is used against the enemy, its power may not even reach the first level. If you are on the battlefield and have been suppressed by evil energy, its killing power can only surpass ordinary armor warriors. Compared to Li Chuangang's four famous skills, such tactics are too flashy and unrealistic. Whether it's a two-sleeved green snake, sword energy rolling on the dragon wall, or a sword opening the heavenly gate, or a sword immortal kneeling. All of these have clear directions and have reached the extreme. For example, the two-sleeved green snake is the ultimate form of swordsmanship. The sword energy rolling against the dragon wall is the ultimate form of sword energy. The kneeling of the one sword immortal goes without saying, it is the ultimate sword power. Opening the heavenly gate with a sword is the ultimate meaning of the sword. Compared to it, this sword sound seems somewhat out of place. Ying Xuan didn't speak up to explain anything, but looked up at Sword Curtain. He suddenly laughed wildly. This smile. At first warm and then cold, it seems that Ying Xuan has become the center of this entire world. The endless power of heaven and earth began to stir, like the waves of the sea, one wave higher than the other. The sword rides the wind, dispelling demons in the world. With wine and joy, I am carefree, but without wine, I am also insane. Drink all the river, then swallow the sun and moon. 1,000 cups of drunkenness won't pour, only I, the Wine Sword Immortal. Amidst the wild laughter, Ying Xuan sang a high song. In an instant, the powerful sword intent suddenly burst out. The thousands of long swords floating in the air suddenly broke free from Li Chuangang's control. If it were just a wandering dragon entering the sea. Now it's like a dragon soaring in the sky. A long sword trembled gently, emitting a clear and pleasant sound of sword sounds. The sound of the sword's roar is like the sound of a clear spring flowing, more like the gentle whispers of birds and beasts in the forest. Surprisingly, it has a power to cleanse the mind and spirit. Although it was just the sound of swords, it made people feel a sense of unrestrained freedom. It seems like everything turned into the word carefree in an instant. In an instant. Like a bright moon rising in the pitch-black night sky, all the haze is washed away. Yu clarifies. All the long swords danced freely, each sword's energy shining in harmony. Surprisingly, it made the light between heaven and earth shine brightly. Like a big sun rising on the flat ground, sweeping through the waves. That's countless miles above the sky. Moreover, a phantom sword edge slowly emerged, stretching for thousands of miles. Above it, a boundless and terrifying aura emanates, as if about to shatter the sky in one fell swoop. This is truly blocking out the sky and the sun. But this scene only lasted for a moment, and then disappeared without a trace. The sword light dancing freely in the long sky also returned to its scabbard. No mistakes or omissions. This scene. The eyes that made everyone look at Ying Xuan suddenly changed. Just now, they only felt that the realm of Ying Xuan was powerful and the sword intent was profound. But it didn't feel as real as it is now. Even if Ying Xuan's sword intent has already restrained. But the remaining sword intent was constantly stirring in everyone's hearts like stormy waves. That kind of recklessness, that kind of carefree, that kind of unrestrained. Only heavenly immortals have the means. Not to mention the huge sword edge that appeared on the sky, it seemed to encompass all the swordsmanship in this world. Is it true that the 9th prince of the Great Qin, who won Xian, is a banished immortal from heaven to earth? This is the true sword intent of the young master. Zhang Han and Li Si's eyes trembled. At this moment, they truly experienced the power of Ying Xuan. Even if Jing Ku had felt it before when he stabbed Qin. But it's not as authentic as I feel today. That sword has a brilliant meaning, illuminating for eternity. Free-spirited and unrestrained. It seems that even heaven and earth cannot be bound. Who can resist such sword intent? The long sword has been sheathed again, which represents many things. Both Zhang Han and Li Si held important positions in the Great Qin Empire. When they followed Ying Xuan to Beiliang, they naturally investigated the martial arts forces in Beiliang. The name of this spring and autumn sword armor is well known throughout Beiliang, and even in the Great Qin Dynasty, there were many supporters. But now, it is under the vast sword intent of Ying Xuan. Completely crushed. How could this not shock them? Sword armor. Surprisingly lost. Even the land immortals lost when they returned. Old Huang's eyes were stunned to the extreme. Spring and autumn sword armor. The entire Liang Jianghu is pursued by countless people, even Wang Xianji is willing to be a younger generation. Unexpectedly lost in the sword intent competition of the newly born Prince of Qin. How could this be possible? For a moment, Lao Huang couldn't accept it at all. On his side. Upon hearing these words, Lv Qiantang, Wei Shuyang, and others trembled all over. They have some doubts about whether their ears have misheard. Returning to the land immortals, with a single sword strike, the sword curtain covers the sky. The majestic spring and autumn sword armor. Unexpectedly lost. Surprisingly, Su Fengnian did not refute what Lao Huang had said. He can also see it. At the moment when Ying Xuan urged his sword intent. Li Chuangong's vast sword intent was like a candle in the wind, extinguished in one go. Afterwards, all the long swords floating in the air changed hands. But that's the spring and autumn sword armor that returns to the land. Is it too much to crush it so easily? Su Fengnian's pupils trembled and he sat down in a chair. He suddenly felt that he was too superficial. Even though I have traveled 6,000 miles in the rivers and lakes, I am still a frog at the bottom of a well today. Leaving aside such terrifying strength for now. Just that sword intent is already an area that he will never be able to touch. Ying Xuan's pursuit is different from his. Fundamentally, he has already been ahead by too much. Little clay figurine, can anyone in this world always be carefree? Su Fengnian spoke hoarsely. Jiang Yanai nodded and her eyes fell on Ying Xuan. She exclaimed in shock, perhaps, I'm afraid only this ninth young master is left. She is a congenital sword embryo and feels it deeply. Although I don't practice swordsmanship, I also know that swordsmen cultivate their hearts. What he thinks in his heart is what the sword's intent reveals. The sword intent of Ying Xuan is too terrifying. Because what he is pursuing is carefree and unrestrained. Who dares to call Xiaoyao in this world? I'm afraid there are only celestial beings left, indeed, truly worthy of the sword immortal. Li Chuangong's voice rang out. Compared to the first praise, this one is more heartfelt. Although he lost, his face was full of smiles. On Ying Xuan, he saw the long-awaited childlike heart. I also saw the future of kendo. Just now, the method of wielding swords was still secondary. What really matters is the blade that appears on the sky. That sword is on par with the heavenly way. It's not an exaggeration to call it the heavenly sword. In the past, Li Chungang and Qi Xuanjia discussed Taoism. Doubting that one's swordsmanship is not as good as the heavenly way, one's sword heart has been broken. But today, Ying Xuan told him through action. Kendo can be on par with the heavenly way. Li Chungang burst out laughing boldly and said, Today I lost. Whatever the ninth young master said, he must invite me to drink. He admitted defeat calmly. This includes both a sense of nostalgia for the past. But more. Still, Ying Xuan's performance was stunning. It is enough to reassure him to hand over the identity of the swordsmanship leader to Ying Xuan. Such stunning descendants are enough to make the world of swordsmanship immortal for thousands of years. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 8. You want to leave Yang, what's wrong with me in Beiliang? You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Drinking. It's natural to drink alcohol. The two sides met by chance and had no major life or death feud. And this time, Li Chungang is able to return to the land immortal, and I also want to thank Ying Xuan. I have seen that swordsmanship can be on par with the heavenly way, and it is even more important to get to know each other well. Ying Xuan also nodded. Just take the opportunity to see what attitude Su Fengnian has. If it will affect your plans in the future, it's better to solve it early. Ying Xuan has no habit of playing cultivation games. Okay, then drink. Ying Xuan stepped into the tavern. After a few drinks, the atmosphere became harmonious. This tavern is also quite lively. Just. Accompanied by a sentence from Ying Xuan, the atmosphere instantly became solemn. Ying Xuan looked at Su Fengnian and said, "You are also a kind-hearted person. If you don't want to go against this Li Yang, how about returning to me, De Qin? Tomorrow, when I ascend to the throne, I will appoint you as the king of Northern Liang and ensure that you enjoy delicious food and spicy food." Say this. Everyone was stunned on the spot. Li Chungang and Lao Huang didn't react much, drinking as if there was no one around. Whether it's Liang or Duqin. The world is far away, and these temple affairs are not worth paying attention to. And not long after the unification of Yang and Donghuang, they naturally do not have much sense of belonging. Just. The group of followers who followed Su Fengnian were all dumbfounded. Lv Qiantang rubbed his ears, thinking he had heard wrong. Wei Shuyang even pulled off a few strands of his beard. How dare the ninth prince of the Great Qin say so? Even if he had shown such strength before, even Li Chungang was willing to bow down. It's a bit exaggerated to be the Qin emperor. You should know that becoming the ruler of a country is not something that can be achieved with strong strength. And, in the year of Su Feng, become the king of Northern Liang. Don't joke, do you still want to take action against Liang? Not to mention the Northern Liang Iron Cavalry, there is also the Great Snow Dragon Cavalry in the Northern Liang. Want to use a few words to make Beiliang surrender to the Great Qin? Jiang Yanai also shook her head. If it were that simple, it would be better not to let Su Shao destroy the Six Kingdoms. Even if Su Shao had a murderous heart due to his high achievements. Isn't Su Shao also loyal to his country? It's not because Su Shao and the old Emperor Zhao Li are siblings and unwilling to do so. Even if the newly appointed Emperor Zhao Chunming secretly planned to weaken Beiliang. Isn't Su Shao also unresponsive? Otherwise, it wouldn't have angered most of the people in the martial arts world. Let Su Fengnian travel the rivers and lakes. Su Fengnian was also stunned for a moment, but he burst into laughter. He smiled and said, "Brother, are you joking with me? Even if it's really against Liang, why should you be the emperor and I be the king of Beiliang? Isn't it fragrant to become the emperor of Liang with my military strength in Beiliang?" This statement is equally bold. But there are some who want to turn what Ying Xuan said into a joke. It's just a joke. But it also has some meaning. This is because the old Emperor Zhao Li felt that Su Shao had achieved great success and had a hidden murderous heart. As a result, his mother learned that he had entered the imperial city alone and created a case in white clothes. But his mother also died of illness as a result. Even his younger brother Su Longxiang has become a fool. This account should be carefully calculated no matter what you say. Moreover, if you want to take Northern Liang back to the Great Qin, you must have ambition. As for who this world belongs to, he doesn't care at all. Of course, it's because De Qin is stronger than Liang. Ying Xuan's tone was indifferent, but it was filled with a sense of dominance. At the beginning of the Ming Dynasty, I entered the Liang. But it gives people a sense of dominance that can crush everything. Upon hearing this, Zhang Han and Li Sijin both nodded. Although the current apparent strength of the Great Qin is inferior to that of Liang. But don't forget, the army of the Great Qin is the largest in this world, and there are countless famous generals. Nowadays, there are even more demons like the young master. If they had heard this before, they would have hesitated a bit. Kujiu Gongzi defeated the former number 1 in the world of Liang Jianghu solely with his sword intent. Such strength naturally elevated the overall strength of Daqin. Although the current Liang is also strong, it is ultimately not a whole. Not to mention the disputes caused by Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism in the martial arts world, major officials also dislike each other. There is also the North Mang tiger watching closely. In addition to these, those former powers of national downfall are also secretly watching. Although Daqin also faced such problems. But the high-end combat forces of the Great Qin are all soldiers who are loyal to the Great Qin. This is not something that the martial arts forces in Liang can compare to. If we have to say it, then only those 100 schools of thought are left. However, the strength demonstrated by Ying Xuan now may really be able to subdue the Liang Jianghu for his own use. When the time comes, let Wang Xianji suppress all the schools of thought, and Huang Longsher plan the world. Isn't it beautiful? Once all of this is done, even if the Northern Yang Iron Cavalry is top-notch in the world. But what waves can be stirred up in the hands of Daqin? Okay, just drink when you're drinking. What's the point of talking about this? Su Fengnian pursed his lips. He poured a glass of wine and said, "What is the relationship between Liang and this crown prince? What do you want to do with Liang?" Su Fengnian naturally knew the internal and external troubles of Liang today. But none of this is his business. In Su Fengnian's view, his father was foolish and loyal. That old emperor Zhao Li is dead, still reminiscing about old relationships. The revenge of one's own mother is naturally to be avenged. Just my current self is still too weak. Only pretending to be drunk and speaking drunken words. Ying Xuan looked at Su Fengnian, who was drinking happily, and said with a faint smile, "Being in Liang naturally has something to do with it." Speaking of which, Ying Xuan also learned about Su Fengnian's attitude. As long as it's not an obstacle in front of him, he can make friends with anyone. He also stopped the topic and didn't say much. Suppressing the Liang Jianghu is not a day or a night, and he is not in a hurry. Ying Xuan continued to joke and said, "People say that Tiger Father has no sons of dogs. I actually want to bow down to that person for slaughtering Su Shao." Ying Xuan handed out the wine in his hand. Su Fengnian took a sip and immediately realized it. Laughing and cursing, "Get lost. I treat you like a brother, and you still want me to call you uncle." Jiang and I beside couldn't help but burst out laughing. "You're right to say that, but I'm a bit eager to say goodbye to 9th young master." Li Chungang also came to join the fun. Several people deliberately interrupted, and the atmosphere became harmonious. It seems that the two have never said anything against Liang. But it is only limited to the tables of Ying Xuan and Su Fengnian. The atmosphere in the tavern remains incredibly heavy. The things discussed between these two people are not so simple. It may even be related to the future situation of the world. But no one dares to say anything. All of them are drinking with their heads down. They just looked at Ying Xuan with vague eyes. This 9 young master of the Great Qin Empire is truly ambitious. Not only to become the next Qin emperor, but also to subdue Beiliang. But in fact, what they found was just the tip of the iceberg. What's more about Ying Xuan's ambition? He wants to become the emperor of the Great Qin, and the Liang River and Jianghu will also be suppressed. Take it for your own use. The world's top king, Xianji, he wants it. There is no last resort, Huang Sanjia, he also wants it. Even after subduing Liang, they still have to go to the phoenix collapse of the Northern Mang Empress. Write down a trip here. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 9. Shocking the World, Seeing the Snow Plain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Full of wine and food. The crowd also dispersed. The encounter with Su Fengnian and Li Chungang on this journey can also be said to have yielded fruitful results. Ying Xuan helped Li Chungang return to the land immortal and made friends with the world's #1 Liang. Moreover, it laid the foundation for the future conquest of northern Liang in his return to the Great Qin. After bidding farewell to each other, Su Fengnian continued his journey and went to Guimen Pass with Li Chungang. As for Ying Xuan, he led Zhang Han, Li Si, and 1,000 god-slaying army straight towards Daxuping. This is a random check that IN task released by the system, with generous rewards. Ying Xuan naturally won't miss it. But aside from these, Ying Xuan also had some different thoughts. Daxuping Guniu Mountain is located in Yangjianzhou. Although it is a city, it is also well known in the martial arts world. It can be said that the entire Jianzhou is under the control of the Shenyuan family and Longhu Mountain. There is also the saying, Jiangxi Dragon and Tiger, Jiangdong Shenyuan. After all, Longhu Mountain is just a Taoist sect. It cannot compare to the deeply ingrained Shenyuan family. If it can be tamed. That Ying Xuan can also be considered a follower in the Liang Jianghu. And this place is adjacent to Longhu Mountain, very close to Wu family sword tomb, Shangyin School Palace, and Wudi City. You can start from here and thoroughly appreciate the master style of the Liang Jianghu. Young master, the carriage and horses are ready. Zhang Han respectfully spoke. Amidst the rolling smoke and dust, it was already heading towards the direction of the snow-covered plateau. Only the small tavern, which had turned into ruins, remained. Although no one watched when Ying Xuan and Li Chungang met. But the commotion it caused was pervasive for thousands of miles. On the third day after the two groups separated. Before turning into ruins, a large number of people from the martial arts world had already appeared in the tavern. Immediately, there were sounds of exclamation and gasping for breath. Sword intent leaving a mark. Is it difficult for two land immortals to break out in battle here? Can Nan Cheng be a person from the Wu family sword tomb? With such sword intent and unrestrained freedom, is it difficult for that spring and autumn sword armor to reappear in the martial arts world? Even though it has been a few days, the place where the sword intentions of Ying Xuan and Li Chungang collide. There are still many sword marks remaining in the void, frozen but not scattered. It has also turned this place into a place where many swordsmen flock to understand swords. Everyone just doesn't know who left this carefree sword intent. Until Li Chungang and Su Fengnian went down to Laoshan, a piece of news shook the entire martial arts world. The 9th prince of the Great Qin, Ying Xuan, is a peerless sword immortal. Li Chungang, the spring and autumn sword armor, returned to the martial arts world and returned to the land immortals. He fought against them but unfortunately lost. Under Su Fengnian's intentional promotion, this news began to spread wildly. Don't blame me, brother, but it probably suits your taste. Su Fengnian helped win Xian's fame, on the one hand through chatting and speculation, and already regarded him as a friend. In addition, Li Chungang should have returned to the land immortal with the help of Ying Xuan. Secondly, there are some careful thoughts from Su Fengnian. What he wants to do cannot be too flamboyant. However, it is estimated that Ying Xuan will not mind this either. Qianfu Temple. A white-robed monk frowned and said, Chao Chongqing, your treacherous act of changing destiny has no hope at all. Across from him, Chao Guanzi in green clothes chuckled lightly and said, there was indeed no hope before, but the martial arts world has not been peaceful lately. What's not peaceful? The white-robed monk left a son. I've heard that the Qin has produced a sword immortal 9 young master. Now that he has arrived in Liang, guess what he wants to do? Chao Chongqing is not urgent or slow. What does it have to do with me if sword immortal is not sword immortal? I don't need a sword, the white-robed monk pursed his lips. Indeed, your great Vajra is too terrifying. No one in this world can defeat it, but that sword immortal 9 young master should be able to. Chao Changqing left behind a son and continued, after all, even Li Chungang, who returned to the land immortal, gave up. These words stunned the white-robed monk. Chao Changqing stood up and said, I'm going to meet this sword immortal 9 young master. Speaking, it was a bow. The white-robed monk waved his hand and said, Go ahead, don't delay me from cooking for my wife. Upon hearing these words, Chao Changqing chuckled lightly and turned around and walked out of the 1,000 Buddhas hall. The top of an unknown building. Huang Longsher looked at the chessboard in front of him with a slight smile on his face. It seems that there have been some changes in this world again. The sword immortal 9 young master who made Li Chungang admit defeat is not from the chessboard. He looked up at the sky. A pair of eyes seemed to see through layers of void, landing on the stars. Beiliang Palace. Zhao Li sat on the dragon chair, with a mountain of government affairs piled up in front of him. Your Majesty, the 9th prince of the Great Qin did not come directly to the imperial city, but instead headed towards Huishan. A soft and gloomy voice sounded, spinning into a dazzling red robe. This person is one of the 3 major demons of Liang, Han Laomo, who is skilled at pointing at the mysterious killing of celestial phenomena with 3,000 red threads. The people in the martial arts world call him a cat, which shows his ferocity. The Great Qin's envoy to Liang naturally greeted the Emperor Liang. But the other party did not come straight to the palace, but instead headed towards the direction of Daxuping. It is obvious that the martial arts forces in Liang can now compete with the court. Even, due to the presence of Wang Xianji, it has surpassed Liang Chaotang. But Zhao Chun never lifted his head. His voice came out in an extremely plain voice. The world of Liang is wonderful, and it doesn't matter if the crown prince of Qin wants to travel. For Ying Xuan, Zhao Chun doesn't think he can stir up any waves in the Liang Jianghu. Moreover, coming to Liang was already an icing on the cake. It would be great if we could make friends with the Great Qin and resist the Northern Mang together. But if friendship fails, the Qin will not choose to take action against Liang. After all, if 2 tigers compete, there will always be one injury. The Great Sui and Ming Dynasties were still eyeing closely. What he truly cares about is the performance of Su Fengnian, the son of Su Shao. The white clothes case in Beijing at that time caused some cracks between Beiliang and Liang. Now, in this year of Su Feng, under the name of Spring and Autumn Sword Armor, he helps win Xian's fame. This is actually a signal. For a long time. Zhao Chun spoke again, go and invite our ancestors out of the mountains. The case from back then should have a result. He is referring to an ancestor who has entered Longhu Mountain, a Taoist sect. His name is Zhao Huangchao. No. The cat nodded and turned around and walked out of the hall. At this moment, a bald old man walked over. But it was Yang Taisui, who was close to the old Emperor Zhao Li. Yang Taisui looked at Zhao Chun, who was handling government affairs in front of him. Just about to speak about the controversy caused by Ying Xuan in the martial arts world. But Zhao Chun said, Taisui doesn't need to worry too much. Instead, she advised Princess Sui Zhu well. If she can successfully marry the 9 young masters of the Great Qin, the Northern Mang will be destroyed. There are many discussions in the world of Liang. Everything arises from the entry of Ying Xuan into Liang, but it has nothing to do with Ying Xuan. After a month's journey, he has already arrived at the foot of Huishan. Ying Xuan got off the carriage and horse, wearing a fox fur. Looking at the everlasting snow on the mountaintop, he chuckled lightly and said in his heart, System. Sign in. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Check-in. We need more means from heaven and man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sign in. As soon as Ying Xian's voice fell, the sound of the system came to his mind. Ding! The check that IN at Huishan Daxuping has been successful. Congratulations to the host for completing the random check that IN task. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the pinnacle of the world, below one person. Zhang Jiwei template. The 65th generation of Heavenly Masters in the Heavenly Master Mansion, with the Taoist name Tiantong. Do you want to merge immediately? As soon as the sound of the system fell, a frenzy of information flooded into Ying Xian's mind. The so-called template is different from inheritance. He obtained the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal and it took him 100 days to fully grasp it. Of course, this also has its own physical condition that requires time to grow in order to carry the power of the Wine Sword Immortal. But templates can instantly capture everything about characters. This check that IN is based on the template of the old master. It means that Ying Xian can instantly inherit everything from the old master. The Heavenly Master degree condensed by the 64 generations of Zongwu mountain leaders. And all the abilities of Zhang Jiwei. Golden Light Curse. Lei Fa. Everything. Ying Xian had a smile on his face. This random check that IN task is really rewarding. I saw the system introduction earlier and thought that there might be a sign in for this old master. I didn't expect that the check that IN has really come out now. You should know that the Heavenly Master is the ceiling of the world under one person. He is happy one person at a time, and unhappy one person at a time. Its combat power goes without saying, naturally it is the realm of great longevity for land beings. The methods of the old master are even more mysterious and extraordinary. Yang 5 Thunders, Golden Light Mantra, Qi Body Source and Flow, method of watching Qi. These methods are no less powerful than the swordsmanship of the Wine Sword Immortal. What surprised Ying Xian the most was that this check that IN was not a legacy, but a template. That is to say, he can also obtain the Heavenly Master Du, who was nurtured by the 60.4 sect leaders, from the old Heavenly Master. Tian Shi Du. It is said to be the inheritance of the sect leaders cultivated by the Heavenly Master Mansion. But in reality. But it's a primordial baby. Just. In a world under one person. This is a prohibition for the Heavenly Master, which will suppress his strength. In this world, Ying Xian is able to fully unleash his power. Even with this primordial baby, one can glimpse the heavenly way of this world. Although the inheritance of the Wine Sword Immortal has made him the pinnacle of the human world, it is enough for him to roam freely in this world. But Ying Xian doesn't mind having more means. Especially after mastering the techniques of the Heavenly Master. I happen to be able to play with those people from Zongwu Mountain. I don't know how the 3 great celestial masters of Zongwu Mountain compare to the old celestial master. Using swords on sword armor, this pair of celestial masters naturally needs to use celestial masters. And Ying Xian also had a doubt in his heart. That's the immortal. The endless continent is boundless, and dynasties rise together. Why is there only a fairy above Liang's head? Perhaps upon arriving at Zongwu Mountain, one can fully understand all of this. Just for now, let's go to Daxuping first. Let yourself have a foothold in this Liang Jianghu. Thinking like this, Ying Xian silently recited in his heart, fusion. Buzzing, a subtle and imperceptible fluctuation permeated Ying Xian's body. The true qi in his body began to change and transform into true elements. In Taoism, this is called qi body, also known as yuan qi. It refers to the primitive material that can produce and constitute all things in heaven and earth. And the mysterious Taoist techniques also connect heaven and earth through this qi body. So they were able to carve talismans to achieve various unexpected mysteries. In addition to the transformation of true qi in the body, a pill field has been opened up in the Ying Xian Purple Mansion. All the elemental energy flows into it, flowing like the sea. He suddenly felt his ears and eyes clear, and everything was incredibly clear in front of him. A person who cultivates martial arts can be divided into 3 Dan fields: upper, middle, and lower. The upper Dantian is mostly developed by Taoism and is known as the Purple Mansion. It contains divine intent on the upper level and elemental energy on the lower level. Zhongdan Tian, on the other hand, is a Confucian school of thought. Only when one's heart is upright can one connect with heaven and earth, triggering a sense of righteousness and righteousness. Xia Dantian is the most common, and both swordsmen and warriors use it as their foundation. After opening up the Purple Mansion, a shimmering cluster of light floated and sank within it. This is the Heavenly Master Du that was conceived and nurtured by the 64th-generation Heavenly Master. With the cycle of true elements, the power of winning mysteries is constantly increasing. Soon, the template of Old Master is complete integration. And such changes were silent, and Ying Xian's aura was restored to its original state with a slight pause. Just. Nowadays, Ying Xian has a somewhat otherworldly temperament that does not cater to worldly pleasures. Ying Xian nodded in satisfaction and then summoned the attribute panel. Host. Ying Xian. Age. 18. Inheritance. Wine Sword Immortal. Ability. Imperial Sword Technique, 10,000 Swords Technique, Heavenly Sword, Sword God, Immortal Wind and Cloud Body Technique, Drunken Immortal Moon Watching Step, Wine God Mantra. Template. Zhang Jiwei. Abilities. Golden Light Mantra, Yang 5 Thunders, Yin 5 Thunders, Palm Thunder, Thunder Prisoner, Wang Qi Technique, Pure Heart God Mantra. Due to its ability to circulate with the Wine Sword Immortal, it comprehends the Yin and 5 Thunders, and the Wine God Mantra has no maximum usage limit. Next check.in time. 20.40.58, next monthly check.in time. 5 days later. Next annual check.in time. 236 days later. Random check.in task. Not refreshed. The attribute panel clearly demonstrates the current capabilities of Ying Xian. And what surprised Ying Xian even more was, because of this fusion template, the Wine God Mantra of the Wine Sword Immortal can only be used up to 9 times without its maximum limit. And he also comprehended the Yin and 5 Thunders. The gathering of Yin and Yang and 5 Thunders is the complete 5 Thunder Dharma. Thunder is generated by the energy of Yin and Yang, Thunder is Yang, and Thunder belongs to Yin. After mastering the 5 Thunder technique, the Thunder technique of winning Xian will no longer be comparable in this world. The rewards of this check.in can be said to be extremely generous. This also made Ying Xian look forward to the next random check.in task. It's just that it hasn't been refreshed yet, so there's no need to worry about it. While viewing the property panel in Ying Xian, in the distance, there suddenly came a cry of surprise. Ying Xian raised his eyebrows to look. In the distance between them, there are 2 faint signs of qi rising. He should be 2 people with good luck. His eyes lit up, and the scene several miles away appeared clearly in his eyes. A woman in purple fled in embarrassment, with a man in black chasing after her. Xianyuan Qingfeng. Ying Xian was taken aback and then chuckled lightly. I didn't expect it to be so coincidental. Just after checking in, I met Xianyuan Qingfeng here. And calculated according to time. At this moment, Xianyuan Qingfeng is likely favored by Xuanyuan's overall market and wants to become a double cultivator of the Ding and Furnace. The person following behind him should be Yuan Tingshan. This actually saves oneself a lot of things. Originally, according to Ying Xian's plan, he came to assist Xianyuan Jingcheng in slaying Xianyuan Depan, in order to subdue the Xianyuan family. But now, there happens to be an opportunity. Thinking of this, Ying Xian reached out his hand from the car window and signaled for the carriage to stop. Young master, do you want to rest for a while? Zhang Han respectfully asked. Ying Xuan walked out of the carriage and nodded. Then it transformed into a magnificent sword light, flying towards the direction of the woman in purple a few miles away. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th.